Hello and welcome along to WD18, the Watford fan channel. We're back to do another video talking about another sacking, but this one does feel different, doesn't it? It doesn't feel like a normal sacking under this ownership with Gino Pozzo, Scott Duxbury, Gianluca Nani, the lot, because Tom Cleverley has lost his job at Watford 3 days after the end of the 24-25 season. On the day season ticket renewal window closes as well. There's a conversation to be had about that, but most importantly, there's a conversation to be had about the decision to let Tom Cleverley go at the end of this season. We're 24 hours after the announcement. If we're honest, and I'm sure the lads will agree with me, our heads probably weren't in the right headspace to talk about this straight away. A lot of emotion, a lot of anger, frustration with this decision, and we thought we'd sleep on it, watch an amazing night of Champions League football, by the way, which made me feel a little bit better, and then come back to it the day after. So myself, Sam and Charlie are just going to give our reflections, our thoughts and feelings on what's happening at Watford at this moment in time. At the time of recording, literally about 10 minutes before we start press play, Gino Pozzo has just released a statement, which we'll get onto in just a second. But the headline is that Tom Cleverley has left Watford as head coach. Gianluca Nani was rolled out to do a statement, which we'll get into in due course. But I'll cross over to you, Sam, first off. Sum up your emotions and your thoughts and feelings, if you can, on this one.
Yeah, like you say, Jacob, I'm sort of happy that we've left it 24 hours. Of course, there's plenty of great reaction and content. I say great in a way that an opportunity for Watford fans to get stuck in to almost instantly after. I think Do Not Scratch Your Eyes did a phone in. You had from the Rookery and Watford Pod, Voice of the Bit. Everyone's sort of released their piece, of course, and I just feel that, at least for me, I was in when I saw. I don't think I was surprised yesterday when I saw the news, but it was. I just felt a bit sick when I first saw it, to be honest with you. I think over the years we've seen so many sackings that we felt a bit used to it. I think particularly when, like for example, Valérien Ismaël left last season. I think everyone was just a bit like, all right, like there was no real feeling or emotion attached to Valérien Ismaël or Slaven Bilic or Chris Wilder, for example. But sort of the three big sackings I look back on in the Pozzo era were Javi Gracia. I think when he got sacked, people were pretty sad about it because of what he achieved. I think when Rob Edwards got sacked, there was a real feeling of anger that he hadn't been backed. And I feel like with Tom Cleverley, because he was someone who Watford fans identified with so strongly and so clearly, those feelings of sadness, anger, have just, everything's come to the fore at once, to the point where it's almost a feeling of sickness, a bit of emptiness. Numbness is the wrong word because I'm full of emotion. I'm gutted for Tom, for such a great man, for his coaching staff, full of great people as well. And yeah, I just think, to be honest with you, it's just difficult to sum up my feelings, Jacob, because I'm feeling so much and none of it is positive, to be honest.
For me, Charlie, this is the worst one of the lot by quite a considerable margin. I mean, there's been a lot of sackings and different head coaches, but this one feels different on a different level. I think the reaction from Watford fans says it all. From your perspective, is it? I imagine it's the same.
Yeah. Yesterday was very much anger. I was furious, devastated, gutted. And today's kind of turned more into sadness and fear about the future, and Gino constantly doing stuff that's going to affect how I support Watford. But I'm worried that this statement that I haven't heard about yet, that's just come out, could change my emotions. So, Jacob, would you put me out my misery with this one?
Yeah. Should we go through events yesterday? So just before 1 o'clock, Watford released this statement regarding Tom Cleverley. Watford confirms the departure of Tom Cleverley as head coach. Cleverley stabilised performances at the end of the 23-24 season, obviously coming in after Valérien Ismaël, as Sam said. At one stage, the Golden Boys were part of the playoff picture, but unfortunately, performances and results drifted with just 5 wins in 2025. Gianluca Nani was the person who gave a comment initially. We thank Tom for his service, not just in his role as head coach, but for everything he has given Watford as a player and member of staff. 9 years, by the way, Tom Cleverley, Watford, starting as a loanee, player, academy coach, head coach. Nani went on to say, but the time has come for a change and to build on what we believe is a young and talented squad that we will have benefited from the experience of the Championship this season. It's been a privilege to work closely with Tom to understand how he sees the game and his enthusiasm for everything here. He deserves to be recognised for this, and I'm sure he will have a bright future in the game. Tom will always be part of Watford in recognition of all that he has achieved over so many years. And the club finished with, there will be no further club comment until a new appointment has been made. So that's the first thing that's gone wrong, because Gino Pozzo has just come out and made a comment. So that was the first bit of news that came out. Then Tom Cleverley himself released a statement. If I can get it up on screen,
this set me off yesterday.
So this was, you can't really see it, but I'll read it very, very quickly before Charlie. We need to get a box of tissues for all of us, really, I think, at this point. To be honest, lads, I'm really glad we did wait, because I think it would have been it wouldn't have been good. So Tom Cleverley released this statement shortly after the announcement. After 9.5 years of my life as a loanee, player, captain, academy coach and head coach, my time at the club has come to an end. After the sadness wears off, I'll forever have a feeling of gratitude and happiness towards the club and the place and people of Watford. To have built a connection with the players and supporters over the last 14 months has been special and the achievement I'm most proud about. To see the development of our key players, young players and academy players has been incredibly rewarding. Has been an incredibly rewarding part of my job, and their progress in the game will always be something I look out for. We've used 11 players aged 21 and under this year, and both they and the club will benefit hugely from this experience. To maintain league position and points after selling key players last summer is something we should be proud of, as well as reflecting on why we couldn't sustain our playoff challenge will be something we should all review. Football and football clubs are special. They make you feel truly part of something. I wasn't born in Watford or raised in Watford, but this honestly feels like home. To the club, I'm grateful for the opportunity, the players for their efforts, and the supporters, myself and my family, will forever appreciate the love and support you've given me on this journey. I repeat, I'll be sad that it's over, but full of happiness that it ever happens. And I hope it's not the final time our paths cross. You want. So that was from Tom Cleverley after the announcement came out. And before I get on to Gino Pozzo's statement, lads, those words from Cleverley, Sam, full of emotion, full of reflection, but also a few lines in there which I think was probably a slight dig at the owners in terms of the squads he'd be given, what he'd done, but also selling key players last summer, the job he's done, pretty much exceeding expectations. Of course, Nani said that it hasn't been as good since the turn of the new year, but what did you make of that statement from Tom Cleverley? Do you agree that it was quite layered in a few ways?
A classy man to the very end, and I think one thing we've seen is that Cleverley will never put things. He'll never, fully out someone, because I think he's just too classy for that. He's a much better person, I think, than the people we've got running the football club, who, for as classy as Cleverley is, they are classless, cowardly, and we'll go on to those reasons later on why we think that. But I think what really struck me even more, to be honest, was what was the comments that Cleverley got in response from some of his players. You had Tom Deluded and Quadro Bar, who I think said something like you're the best manager I've ever played under. You look at some of the social media posts from some of the players, all sort of saying similar things, or thank you, Gaffer, etc. So yeah, I think it shows it's a mark of the man from Tom Cleverley, and how well respected he was from everyone.
Yeah, and if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to this, there's a few of the comments from some of the Watford squads: Ngakia, Dumbia, Andrews, Chatfadazzi, Pollock, and Barr. Tom Deluded saying he's the best manager he's ever worked under. It begs the question, Charlie, before I sort of go through the statement from Pozzo, why do you think he's done it?
I think he's done it because he's a deluded narcissist, and he honestly thinks that, and he's a greedy person who thinks that he can steer us back to the Premier League and he can get the Premier League wealth and then leave, or what he'll probably think he can get into Europe and the Champions League after that. We saw what happened in January when there were strong rumours that we had approached another head coach and that Tom Cleverley was going to get sacked then, which was obviously the case, despite, I know Do Not Scratch Your Eyes did an interview with Duxbury and Clevs afterwards. I think maybe we can get into that and some of the quotes from that afterwards, but that obviously was the case. For whatever reason, we stuck with Tom, and he's thought that I'm going to, even though the squad's inept and like all the answers, everything that we've gone for and all the context, he's thinking, I'm going to sack him and then I'm going to get a manager in and he might be able to get into the Premier League next season. However, looking at those response from the players, and I know this is further along in the interview and I want to hear what Gino's had to say recently, but how are the players going to respond now? We saw the connection between the players and Clevs, especially after that Luton game, even on Saturday. So how are the players going to respond when they come back to London Colney and there's a random person there and it doesn't go well in the first games? The players are going to, like we've seen year after year, down tools because they know he won't be there for long. That's why the job that Tom done was so significant and so impressive, because he rebuilt something that's been dragged through the mud, our football club, and now it's back in the mud, it's further down the mud, and that's all down to Gino Pozzo. One of my pet peeves is people going, Watford sacked Tom Cleverley, Watford did that. No, Gino Pozzo has done it all, and everything that has gone wrong with this football club in recent years is down to him. But let's see what the cow's got to say.
Let's have a read then. Actually, just on that, Charlie mentions a quote from the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast, so I just wanted to get up briefly, because the longer it's on the screen, the more angry you'll be, probably. This was Scott Duxbury to Do Not Scratch Your Eyes back in February. Tom Cleverley was my appointment and I backed Tom. I can't react to rumours that are out there. When results are not going your way, rumours do flow. I told Tom to ignore that and know you've got my full backing. During that process, Gino made it clear that he was fully backing Tom. That was in February when Do Not Scratch Your Eyes had the opportunity to speak to both Scott Duxbury and Tom Cleverley. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, before we went live, Gino Pozzo released this statement. The guys haven't really had a chance to read it. It's a bit of a long one, so and I'm reading a lot of statements today. I think this is a hat trick. But this is what the owner had to say, released just 7 minutes ago. It's 13 years since we first invested in Watford, and in that time, this magnificent football club has changed enormously. Vicarage Road is a home that every single one of us can be proud of, and a fitting stadium for fans who deserve the best. We've had some wonderful highs, seasons in the Premier League and several visits to Wembley, but of course some inevitable disappointments which are part of football. But this is not meant as a history lesson. This is about the present and the future of the club under our ownership. One thing that has never changed is the special spirit of this football club. And while there have been challenges, I wanted to take this opportunity to reflect on the season just gone and reaffirm our absolute commitment to Watford Football Club. I realise we have a responsibility to make this club the very best that it can be, and I'm energising my determination to make Watford competitive, successful, and challenge for a return to the Premier League. This is a responsibility we all take incredibly seriously. The Championship is tough because there is a depth to the competition which makes it one of the hardest leagues in the world. But I've seen real signs this season that we have the talent within our squad to challenge for the playoff places next season and hopefully promotion. Yes, there has been a lack of consistency at times, which saw us drop away when I thought we could be in the top six. But we have a group of highly talented young players who will only have benefited from the experience of this season and what it means to compete in the Championship. Tom Cleverley is a bright young coach who has a real future in the game, but he needs time to gain experience, and in football, time is a precious commodity. I felt to achieve our immediate aims next season, we need a more experienced coach to get the best out of our squad. Results and performances, certainly after Christmas, were those of a club in a relegation fight, and we couldn't allow that momentum to continue into the next campaign. I've seen the reaction, and I accept that. I realise there'll be some fans who, no matter what we say, are not going to agree with us. This is normal. It's football, and I respect that the game is all about strong opinions. What I will say is that we believe we have made the correct decision for the good of the football club. That is the basis for every decision we take. Going forward, we will do everything in our power to keep those more experienced players in our squad to help the younger members in their development. We're not abandoning the model, which has served us well over the years, identifying youth and developing it, but we recognise the need to keep this current squad together and build on it if we want to be successful. The club will never be jeopardised financially, but we will do everything possible to provide stability and growth where the playing side is concerned. To those who may not agree with everything that has happened, I can assure you we all recognise our responsibility to the football club and we take every decision for the benefit of Watford. That is what we strive for every single day, and we will continue to do so throughout the summer and into next season. Thank you, Gino Pozzo. Sam.
Wow. First off, Jacob, new career for you. I think reading audiobooks. Very great for you, mate. Genuinely.
I don't know about that. I mean, it's been some tough reads today. I'll tell you that for nothing.
I didn't want to hear from him, to be honest with you. Shut your mouth and leave the football club. I don't really care what justification you've got saying that saying that you care about the football club, that everything's for the best interest. What I'm seeing is he mentions the word responsibility a lot in there, but what I'm actually seeing from this is a clear lack of responsibility for what's gone on here. He mentions in terms of the form in the second half of the season being in a relegation fight. Well, the clear reason for that is because you didn't back Tom Cleverley in the January transfer window when we knew that there were key areas that Watford needed to address. Absolutely zero help for Tom Cleverley. I also think that one of the reasons why things seemed to derail at the end of the season was because of the stability created when he was plotting to bring in a new manager behind everyone's backs. Yeah, it's made me more annoyed to be honest with you, reading that statement. And yeah, I think the most gutting thing to hear about that is that he's still committed to being at Watford FC and he's not saying he's putting the club up for sale.
And this is the point that he's making, Gino Pozzo, Charlie, is that if you're basing it purely on recent results, as they have been poor, let's not pretend they haven't been, and some of the performances have been pretty poor, but it's just such a narrow-minded, short-sighted view on this football club and the stage it's at and the moment we're in. And it just feels like a cop-out. You know, Pozzo was there on Saturday. He would have heard the connection at full time. He would have heard the songs. He would have heard all of it. And I think there's part of him that struggles with the idea that the manager's more popular than he is. And the manager, he probably thinks, is creating a bit of a divide between him and the ownership. Do you believe that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said before, he's a narcissist. And the thing that angered me the most about that statement is his comments about what Tom Cleverley needs in football. This is a family kind of show, so like I'm trying to kind of keep my emotions in check because, and again, it reaffirmed my point. He mentions there about our short-term goal of being in the Premier League. He is going to be in for a real shock when we are staring down the barrel of relegation and we could possibly be in League One, and what offers we have for people to buy the football club compared to what we're getting now, if that's true. He's an absolute lunatic, and I can't believe he had pulled the wool over our eyes for all these years when he struck gold by getting our club, and he got lucky that he got us in the Premier League. I don't know if I'm being harsh or I'm speaking in hindsight. It was a similar model. Did it work? Did he get lucky? But the sample size now to show that he is absolutely clueless in how to lead any kind of business. And I just feel so sorry for the people that are still working there and have to work in that environment, whether it's the players, whether it's the people directly below them. I know we spoke about Scott Duxbury. How does he stay in his position? I know he's still well paid. I know he took a pay cut and whatever, but how can he what integrity do you have to go through your day-to-day where you're constantly undermined by your boss? Again, I know people say differently, but I've met Scott and I've seen how passionate he is, and we've seen with his appointments in Rob Edwards and Cleverley, I feel like he's got the right intention. He might lack loads of characteristics, but I feel like his heart and his mind are in the wrong place. Can't say the same about Gino Pozzo, and the sooner he leaves this football club, the better, because I just don't want to see it get dragged any lower than it is at the moment.
No, I agree. I think you made a fantastic point at the top, Charlie, about sort of the difference between Watford making this decision and Pozzo making this decision. At the end of the day, for me, the club, any football club, is not about their owners. It's about the fans, the history, the fact that it's all part of our day-to-day lives. The fact we, for example, we talk about it every single week. So I think it's very important for anyone who's not a Watford fan watching this, don't confuse Watford Football Club with the Pozzo ownership, because they're two very, very different things. Because he doesn't represent me. I don't think he represents you. But also, I think one of the biggest things for me is there's a lot of talk about being the original family club, and we all know the values. And what I will say is there's a huge difference as well between what the trust do and what other people at the club do. And there's some amazing people at that football club. He does not define those people either. So that's the first thing to say. But it's really difficult for me, lads, to feel a love for the club at the moment, because it does feel like we've reached a new low in recent times. This decision, I mean, I used the word disgraceful yesterday. You know, there have been some bad decisions at Watford over recent years. We've talked about it a lot on this channel, but it's pretty impressive that this is the worst of the lot, without a doubt. I think Tom Cleverley is not only a huge, huge loss, but he will go to another club and be successful. I'm so confident of that. Not only as a man, but the way he was developing as a coach. And yeah, he made mistakes this season. Sure, he did. But at the end of the day, what he brought back to being a Watford fan was an identity. And we completely lost that under recent managers. And that was all because of the ownership. Now, if you want to strip it back and think from his perspective, yeah, sure, you can look at the results, sure. But then you look at the fact that we lost our player of the season last year. We sold a midfielder for £30 million. Our average age of our squad was 23. You know, 10% of what we brought back into the club was spent on players. And he has worked wonders, particularly in the first half of the season. That's what I really struggle with, is when people mention about, oh, you look at the results in the back end. What, so we're just going to completely forget the first half of the season? That just isn't how football works. And he made it pretty clear what he needed in January. You saw the difference when someone like Selvik and Abankwah came in. Imagine if he had another couple of positions, it might have been a completely different story this season. But take away the results and take away where we are on the league table. For me, it was the connection. And Saturday, you know, actually, I get quite emotional watching that video now, because he clearly knew he was gone. We said in the post-match pint that why on earth did he not speak to the fans at full time? I saw Tim Coombs go over to him to give him the mic. He refused to. And I think he knew the writing was on the wall. It had already been planned. It had already been agreed. The rumours that came out in February said all you need to know that Pozzo was not buying Tom Cleverley. And Duxbury probably delayed the inevitable. But a leopard doesn't change its spots. And at the end of the day, people are already talking about who the next man is going to come in. We've seen the bookie. Honestly, it will not change, and it will not change until the ownership go. So I guess the question is, Sam, where do we go from here as Watford fans? Because it's pretty clear that one thing he's done, Pozzo, is unite. I'd say the vast majority of Watford fans, in terms of the decision being the wrong one. Now, there'll always be some who will disagree, and they're entitled to do that. But the majority of what fans you think speak to going to Vicarage Road will disagree wholeheartedly with the decision, and a lot of anger and frustration and emotion will be directed upstairs. As Watford fans, where do we go from here?
It's a great question. It's going to be very, very difficult to get behind the new manager, regardless of who it is. Not because of, and I know we don't know who the new manager is going to be. There's whispers of Garrido, the assistant, obviously Pachetta's name, who was linked in January, will be in there. I think at one point the bookie's favourite was Will Still. Whoever it's going to be, I feel sorry for them already, because they just simply won't have that support of the fans, because fans are going to want Tom Cleverley there. would have wanted Tom Cleverley there in the dugout come the first game of next season. Yeah, it's difficult because of that to almost think about where we go from here, and it's a shame because I think this Watford team have earned our support as well. That for once the blame isn't on them. I know that results weren't there, but unlike other managers, they didn't down tools this season. I don't think effort levels ever particularly dropped. I think, and we've said this on the channel before, I know results weren't there and weren't good at all in the second half of the season, but on the whole, the way we were playing and the performances, I think, were actually a lot better in the second half of the season as well, when we were on the wrong end of poor discipline or the odd goal. But I'm spiraling here in terms of my thoughts, but it's just all that progress has now gone out the window, and I want to get behind the team come the first day of next season, and I will get behind the team, but it's just difficult to get behind any sort of regime or the ownership. I'm sure there'll be conversations on protests and whatnot, what happens now, but yeah, I don't know if there's time and a place to talk about that, and I'm sure that the conversation will be later in the summer. But I think what's even more frustrating is the cowardly nature in which Pozzo has done this, because he would have known that he was going to sack Tom Cleverley for weeks now. Probably, I mean, he'd known he was going to do it since the Coventry game. And I can't really pinpoint a moment in the second half of the season where he knew he would have done this, but very, very deliberate that he's waited for the last day of the season, knowing that he can't face the backlash after seeing how the fans rallied together against Coventry and Derby earlier in the season. It's pertinent that he's waited for season ticket renewals to close, so fans are going to be less likely to not renew their season ticket. Cowardly way of doing it. It's a mark of the man, and all three of them. I mean, I know Scott Duxbury, as you say, Jacob should probably walk off the back of this. He won't, being on £500,000 to £1 million a year. Jean-Luc Kanani, I know he's in this dual role between Udinese and Watford, but decisions seem to have been getting worse as he's come into the football club, and the man at the top as well, Gino Pozzo. I'm sorry, I know I didn't really answer your question there, but
no.
It's just spiraling.
No, I mean, the fact that we're 24 hours on since this was announced and it's still very, very raw, I think says a lot. Just a stat to read you. Thomas Frank joined Brentford in October 2018. Since then, Watford have had 13 managers, a couple of caretakers, and are now looking for their 14th. I think it's fair to say the problem is bigger than the head coach, and we've said that for a long time on this channel. Charlie, we put a running order together, and you talked about action. Now, I personally feel just before I cross over to you, the only way really Gino Pozzo is going to care about the supporters, which, let's be honest, and anyone telling me otherwise, he doesn't. He does not care at all, because he wouldn't make the decision he's made. And ultimately, the reason, Sam, the reason he didn't announce he announced this at the season ticket is because obviously a business makes a massive change, as we all know. They're not going to jeopardize that money coming in if a decision like that's going to be made. Because let's be honest, I hope that's not him. If we're honest, people, I think, would the season ticket for next season will go down. It was at 92% renewal this season. I personally think the only way you can make a stand, which and this is probably the only way you can do it, is by not attending games and not buying tickets and not buying stuff in the club shop, because ultimately everyone's obviously entitled to take action in whatever way, obviously respectfully and peacefully. But the point is that that's the only way he will take notice if it hurts the pockets. For me,
I think it's such a difficult situation, and I think the only way to do, because we've had a couple of tweets and I've seen different fan groups and stuff asking for backing and us to mobilise. And yeah, I think if you're going to do something, you need to do something really aligned, really astute, and kind of, do you know what I mean? You have to make the biggest impact, whether it be protest or you have to be as one. And I think it's so difficult. And that's, I echo Sam's point about how calculated this is, because we're at the back end of the season. No one has the energy now to make a real effort. And when are we going to protest? We've got another 8 months. I listened from the Rookery's reaction to the decision just before this, and they're speaking to other fans soon from like Sheffield Wednesday and Reading, who have been in different situations, and it's just not an easy thing to do. And I think that's why I'm really fearful now. And I think someone made that, I think it might be Lou Orns made the point that I had the tiny bit of hope that Gino was just going to, because he's lost interest, he was going to just leave Tom away. He didn't want to pay compensation, which is more money, and just wait until an offer came in that he was acceptable. But no, yet again, the biggest gambler in football has done it again. He's lost more money by paying Tom off, and he's going to try and find someone or find a way that's going to get his Premier League big payout. But honestly, we're going the completely opposite way. So in terms of kind of unifying as a fan base, like, it's hard because who has the energy now to do something? I will be in support of something that looks aligned and proper, but it's such a big job and it's not easy for anyone to do. So yeah, I think everyone maybe just needs to take some time, take a breather, and once everyone's in the headspace after this decision, maybe come together, unite, and come up with a proper plan. But it's such a difficult thing to mobilise a fan base and do something. And ultimately, what can you do? That Gino's what can you do? Jacob said about hitting him where it hurts, and I get that, but to get a unified fan base to do that is a big task. So it's definitely above my pay grade. And like I said, I'm open to kind of listening to things and being support of it, but I certainly don't have the energy at the moment. And it's heartbreaking because we're running our charity event on Saturday, which is at Vicarage Road. And that was one of the things I thought of after the decision. I was like, do I want to go back to it? And we've spent months organizing. Of course, we're going to do it, and it's going to be a great day. But at the moment, if I'm being completely honest with you guys, the kind of my energy levels towards that has dipped a bit, which is all down to Gino Pozzo. So look, I'm not going to let him affect what will be an amazing day. And again, I don't want anyone to feel like that, and I want anyone to feel kind of like they've got stuff on their chests. Come down on Saturday and chew my ear off and tell us how you're feeling, because I feel a bit cathartic even now saying this, speaking to you guys. So if that's going to be any help to come down on Saturday and talk to us about how you're feeling, please do. And again, we're raising money for really, really wild causes. But yeah, in terms of the bigger picture stuff, it's a really complex thing to try and do.
Totally. And also after the tournament on Saturday, which will be a good day. I mean, we are really excited for it. It's definitely left a sour taste, which I'm sure will go on into the weekend. And someone did ask, are you still doing the event? Absolutely. I mean, firstly, it's taken way too much work to not do it. Number two, we've raised so much money for charity with the guys at the Trust and Giancarlo at the Men's Health World Cup. I think it's approaching £40,000 for some amazing charities, and an opportunity for you guys to experience playing on Vicarage Road. And look, just have to carry on, don't you, when stuff like this happens. I just wanted to read you. Sorry, I've done a lot of reading today, and the guys have summed up my thoughts personally really, really well. So there's not much for me to add on it. But I wanted to read you a passage from Andrew French's article. He talks about the new man who will come in, and he said the new man will get an office of his own, but hopefully won't expect to be able to have a mind of his own. Compliance is king if you want to enjoy working at London Colney. But let's not get hung up on the incoming head coach, who will eventually simply add to the millions the club has already spent on settling contracts. This is a moment to recognise what we had, be grateful for it, and send the most Watford Northerner you'll find on his way with his head held high. Go well, Tom. Thank you for 9 years of honest, committed, hard graft. You said you feel like Watford is home. We feel like our son is moving out. And I think that sums it up absolutely beautifully from Andrew.
Yeah. I mean, Troy Deeney said this on TalkSport yesterday in terms of Watford fans feel like they've grown up with Tom. And that's what I feel like. My first game when I was quite a late developer into watching football, and I didn't really enjoy it until I was 9 years old. My first Watford game wasn't until the Lloyd Doyley game against QPR in 2009. Watford won 3-1 that day. And the other goal scorer for Watford was Tom Cleverley while he was on loan from Man United, and yeah, obviously fell in love with the club from that day. And I've seen Tom obviously in that loan spell come back as a player, become captain. Obviously his injury that ended his career, going to the academy set up and then head coach. So yeah, it's difficult. It's heartbreaking that he has moved on. And I just wanted as well, because obviously the focus is rightly completely on Tom, but we're losing some brilliant people as well, most likely at the football club as well. You'd imagine that Robbo is going to move on. Hopefully that'll mean we can get him on the channel again soon to give us some analysis, which would be great. But Robbo, great bloke that so many people know. You'd imagine Damon Lathrope is going to move on as well. Did an absolutely phenomenal job with the women's team a few years ago, beating Nottingham Forest at Stadium MK to win promotion. He was involved in the academy setup as well before eventually moving into the first team setup. So yeah, we're losing some great people at this football club, among other analysts and other staff as well, alongside Tom Cleverley. So yeah, I just thought we'd give them a quick mention too.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of again reiterate and say how much of a class act Tom is, and give a bit of an insight into when we done the WD18 Cup this time last year, when Tom first came in, and he agreed to attend the event where he met us off his own back. He brought Armand and Damo with him, and kind of we stayed in touch like a tiny bit back and forth. And that day he was amazing and kind of took selfies for absolutely everyone, and just spoke on the mic. And I think what people might not realise about Tom is all this time he's been living away from his family. His family live up north, near me in Manchester. So he's been living away, working his arse off every day to make Watford as good as it can be. So how grueling, how would that feel if you're away from your family and your loved ones and you're living by yourself? And the fact that he's done that without moaning, without throwing his toys out the pram when it's gone wrong, working in the environment, and has kept an absolute class act throughout. And again, like the few times that we have messaged, where it'd be after the Millwall game, after a few drinks, when we had the last minute winner, like the photo of like me, Sam, and I think it was Welchie with his top off and stuff, and it always messaged back like instantly in such good form. So yeah, we've lost a great person, and I think an unbelievable coach to do what he's done this season with the squad he has. And yeah, it's going to absolutely kill me to see how well he does, because I just feel like we've lost our biggest asset, and until Gino goes, we're going to be in a bad way. So I kind of want to end on a bit of a high. We're acting a bit like he's died and giving him a tribute and stuff like that, but now Tom's not dead. He's going to have an unbelievable career in football, and yeah, I just want to thank him for everything he's done since he's come on loan, since he's taken us to the Premier League, joined us when we were in the Premier League, and all those great moments, even the great work and all the players he's developed, those young players. When have you seen Watford players come out in all full support of a manager? It just doesn't happen. And just what a great ambassador he was. So yeah, thanks Tom for everything you've done.
Yeah, well said. Well said. I mean, just from mine to wrap up, I think when Tom, just from when he was a coach, took over, it was a broken team and a broken football club. And I feel like we're back to that point now. But when he took over, it was broken. Overachieved all season. Towards the back ends, sure. But a bad run of injuries, which never gets mentioned when people talk about that form. Bad run of injuries at a crucial time to two of his best players. He brought youngsters in with hardly any transfer moves. He made us playoff contenders despite the bookies having us favourites for relegation at the start of the season. So my question would be, if we ever got the chance to sit down with Pozzo, Duxbury, Nanny, what more do they want? Because I think I'm losing faith. I'm sure a lot of you are too. And as Charlie said, we wish Clev's nothing but the best, because the man's an absolute class act and has been from start to finish since he was involved with Watford Football Club, whether that was joining as a 20-year-old or 19-year-old to when he's left as Watford's head coach. Oozes class, and I really, really hope he goes on and does well. And I think that echoes the thoughts of a lot of us that and that says a lot about the man, that you've got a manager leaving and we want him to only go and do well. As long as he doesn't join a couple of teams, I'd love to see him go on and have a fantastic coaching career, because, as the player said, he's one of the best coaches they've worked under. The fans absolutely love him. He speaks so well. He's been professional. Yeah. I think we'll leave it there. Nice one. Okay, Charlie, Sam, anything else to add?
I've got a feeling, and I think this might just be me kidding myself just to make myself feel a bit better, that I don't think it's over. I do think we'll see Tom Cleverley in some capacity at Watford again. He's got a long coaching career ahead of him. Probably won't be when Gino Pozzo is at Watford, but yeah, I do think we'll see Tom Cleverley back at Watford at some point. So yeah, counting down those days in my head, but maybe I'm just trying to make myself feel better.
Love that positivity to end with, Sam.
Do you know what? I'll throw one in there just to wrap up. And I think it's top set. The Harlequin is back.
We are so back.
It might be the return.
Pozzo in, get in.
I can't wait to the first game of the season when we go 1-0 up and Sam goes, we are so back.
Cathartic. We got it off our chest. Hopefully it was helpful for you getting, I mean, it does feel like a bit of, well, it's trauma, isn't it? A little bit, because it is really, really difficult as Watford fans. But hey, life goes on. We move on. We'll still be here this time next season. We were going to do a keep, sell or loan. Obviously, that's been delayed until further notice, but we will do that video at some point. But thank you so much for giving up your time to listen to us talk about Watford, talk about Tom Cleverley. Tom Cleverley has been sacked as Watford head coach. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and subscribe to the channel for more Watford fan content. And finally, if you are about on Saturday at Vicarage Road and you'd like to come in and have a chat, talk about Watford's, get involved with our charity day with the Trust in the Men's Health World Cup for the WD18 Cup, then make sure you do attend. Some really, really cool people come in. We've got an auction, tickets available. Tommy Smith and Marvin Sordell were available to play, and obviously the kickoff beer as well for the Mad Squirrels. So it should be a special one. And we'll leave it on that one because it's a positive note. Take care, guys, and up the audience. You would.